And all I want is just to be free and to respect other people and have them respect me and to be protected by the law and do what I want, you know, and have freedom. That's all I want. The government is robbing you and giving the state and local government a cut to cooperate. And they have figured out, and they do this in other countries too, watch it. They do it to us and they do it to other countries. They don't roll in here and try to boss you around and tell you how you're going to run your life. No. They buy your friends and make your friends do it. They buy our state. They bribe our state away from us and make our state do it. They give our sheriff's department a bunch of federal funding. And then when we go to the sheriff and we say, hey, sheriff, we elected you. You are very close to the source of authority, which is us. We want you to protect us from anybody who's going to trample on our rights, no matter what they call themselves, no matter how they're organized. We want you to do that, all right? And he says, ooh, I don't know. Those people you want me to protect you from make up a pretty considerable portion of our budget. And so you've got this sheriff with torn allegiance, because we're no longer a free republic. We're a monetary, inflationary empire. The other thing that you can do is you can appeal to this government based on the rule of law. Okay? You can call them on the carpet. You can go before a court. You can make your case based on logic. You can make your case based on the Constitution and have it all ironed out and all perfect. And you're appealing to them on the merits of law, and they won't hear you. Here's the way it'll go. We just got out of Continental Congress. The main reason that we were there is because we're being denied redress of grievances. What'll happen is you'll have a really sound, bulletproof, constitutionally based case, and you'll start fighting this case, and you'll start getting up through the tiers, you know, up there, and you'll get up to the Ninth Circuit Court. You guys are in the Ninth Circuit Court. It's horrible, I know, because Alaska's in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals too. You'll get up there to that Ninth Circuit Court with your case, and you want to go all the way to the Supreme Court and have this settled. And they'll say, we're not going to hear your case. Well, why not? And they say, well, because you don't have standing. Oh. Well, why don't I have standing? Because we're not going to hear your case. And that's what they say. That's not an oversimplification. That's what they say. Next, please. And that's it. And you know why that is? You know why they operate that way? You know why you can have the whole Constitution and the 16th Amendment, and you can prove how you know, the income tax was never ratified and how it's unconstitutional and it was a temporary war measure. You can have all of these laws out here, you know, all right? And you can fight it based on all of these laws. And I know that there's some people in this room that have fought it based on those laws, you know, and you know what? There's way more people that haven't fought it based on those laws. And let me tell you why you didn't fight it based on those laws. Because our government does not operate under the rule of law. They operate under the rule of force. You've got to put right and wrong above legal and illegal. Because when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. And it is not rebellion at all. It is submission to the higher law that our government is in rebellion to. We're not the rebels. They're the rebels. The next thing that we got to understand about how our system works is that, you know what, our senators and our congressmen in Washington, they're not nearly as powerful as you might think. One thing that I've learned from dealing with government and talking to these guys and trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of why can we not be free, why can we not do this, is they are afraid of the agencies. They're afraid of the IRS, the ATF, the DEC, all these other alphabet soup agencies, because what you do is you get this kind of a separate animal from government. You know, in our government we're supposed to have the judicial that, you know, reviews and applies, you know, the executive that implements it, and the legislative that writes it. And what you do is you get an agency or a bureau. What the heck's a bureau? You know, we had ATF come to one of our meetings like this. We had 1,000 people, and we asked them, what's a bureau? They didn't know. I said, well, do you know what an agency is? No, they didn't know that either. Well, we got the Internal Revenue Service. What's a service? They didn't know that either. You know, we got the Transportation Security Administration. What's an administration? What are these things? Certainly you know what you are. They didn't know. We called the agencies and the services. They didn't know either. I don't know. I've worked here for 30 years. I never thought that question. It's like they were like Dilbert, you know. They worked there all this life in this cubicle and they don't know why or what they do. You know, they didn't even know what those words meant. But I think there's something big under there with who they're accountable to. And I think we got to dig that up. And I've been trying, but it's buried deep. I haven't found it yet. When it is, I'll send you an email. When I find out what a bureau is, I'll send you an email. Anyway, these bureaus and all these things, these animals, we don't know what they are, these unidentified species of government, they consolidate all three functions of government into one. They create regulations that have the force of law. They have their own enforcers that come out and kick your door in to make sure you're doing it. That's a legislative function to make the rules. It's an executive function to kick in your door. And then when you get dragged out of there with zip ties on your hand, you go before them. And you have a judicial function, and they review it themselves with an administrative hearing. That is the consolidation of all three of those powers. It's a loophole, it's a way to get around the checks and balances, and it's so entrenched, and it is so powerful in this government that we've got, that our congressmen and our senators are scared of it. And you know what it's doing to them? It's making their role of writing legislation almost purely ceremonial. They're kind of just a dog and pony show. And then the next thing that we did is we created a militia. Everybody kind of a little bit timid about that, you know. But you know what? One thing that we went over and I know I'm going over. I'm here. I'm going to wrap up real quick. One thing that we went over at Continental Congress is that the states are in violation of the Second Amendment because of our absence of citizens' militias. And that's nobody's responsibility but our own. That's our own fault. And so we created a militia. And there are 3,500 armed, well-trained men under my command in Fairbanks right now. And they are rip-roaring, ready to go. They're able to speak to the government in their language, which we hope won't have to happen. But you know what the militia is? The militia is anybody with a gun and a conscience. It's anybody who values their freedom and the freedom of their neighbor. It's somebody who's got that sense of duty to their fellow countrymen. It's beautiful and it's right and it's good. And we ought not to hide from it. We ought not to let the media scare us out of that. You know, all the founding fathers said that was the only place that was safe for military force. Because every man who's in the militia is restrained by his own conscience. You know, it's a little harder to do that in a conscripted army where when you say march, they go or they throw you in the brig. In the militia, if I give an order, if I say go do this, it's only followed congruent upon their conscience. It's not a command control structure. It's a command suggest. It's a command information. It's here's what's happening. Here's what we're going to do. Here's why this compels our conscience to do this. If your conscience compels you, follow this order. You know? That's what that is. If your conscience compels you to do what's right here and to defend your neighbor or whatever, then do that. You know? It's like having 3,500 checks and balances on the commander. Now here's the mission that I'll leave you with. We don't need to gun down the beast. Liberty always wins because tyranny self-destructs. What we need to do, and here's the mission, and I want you guys all to strongly consider this being your mission, is that we need to guard the seeds of liberty. We need to guard the precious gems of freedom that are recognized in our founding documents. We need to take those seeds of liberty and we need to protect those through this fiery shakeout of the natural consequences of the irresponsible actions of our run-amok government. We need to shelter and guard those seeds of liberty and carry those through the flame and through the fire to the other side and plant those in the fertile soil when the smoke clears, so that there can be hope for a brighter day after the devastating consequences of the horrible rebellion that our government has given to us. Let's be characterized by what we love and work towards that, and let what we hate run its own natural course. That's my appeal, and I know that you will seize the day. Thank you.